After all the videos like this that you watch, what are the actual changes that you make in your daily life to benefit and learn from it? You take in all of this content, be that books, videos, podcasts, and yet you don't make sustainable or measurable changes in your life. And what this means is that you're relying on memory and motivation to drive you through these changes. But both of those are going to fade over time. What you need are systems that are going to make it as easy as possible to repeat those behaviors. And so what I'm going to do today is take you through a few that I have set up to make sure that these behaviors are repeated and make sure that I can keep all my plates spinning. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Tom, and I put out content under the broad umbrella of longevity because it interests me. The goal of this channel is for me to make incremental changes consistently so that I can, over time, live a healthier and longer life. And I hope that by sharing this with you, you can too. A bit of a change of pace with today's video. It's not going to be as research heavy, but it's going to be more a personal account of the systems that I use to keep myself disciplined and hold myself accountable for when I'm not feeling motivated. One of my favorite quotes is from Chris Williamson, who says that we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. And I couldn't agree more. The world today has, in my eyes, an attention epidemic. And what I mean by this is that it's so easy to get distracted. The whole point of dopamine is to encourage us to repeat those actions that keep us alive. And yet now there's completely new ways to hijack it, to manipulate it, and all of this digs away at our most valuable resource, time. If we don't have systems that dictate how we best spend that time, we will default back to doom scrolling, watching endless shows on Netflix, whatever that may be, because it's easy. I would say there are two main reasons that we need systems. The first being self-accountability, and I'm a firm believer that no one is going to cheer louder for you than you are. And this accounts for both when other people are watching and when they're not. It's very easy to have a good workout when you've got a friend that's pushing you to go one more. It's very easy to have a good day at work when you've got extra attention from your mentor or manager. But when they're not around, do you fall back to a bar that is much lower that you set for yourself? You shouldn't. Systems are a way to hold yourself accountable and to get you to repeat those actions consistently that will get you moving towards your goals. The second relates to something that I find really interesting, and it's from a video I watched a few years ago where a nurse or care worker was being interviewed. And they said that one of the most common regrets of people on their deathbed is that they didn't live a life true to themselves. What I take this to mean is that everyone's very different. Everyone has different goals, everyone enjoys different hobbies, and you are in some ways very, very different from your friends. And that doesn't mean that you should spend no time with them at all. It means that you should design your life in a way to both show up for the people that you love, but also show up for yourself. If you don't make time to do that early on, then it becomes a lot more difficult to understand who you are as a person. And what I've been able to do with the systems that I have in place is show up for the people that I love during my 20s, but also work towards certain goals that they don't have that make me intrinsically very happy. The single most useful system I have and that I use consistently is time blocking. For those who don't know what time blocking is, it's when you allocate certain parts of your day in your calendar to complete various tasks. And a lot of people use this at work to become very productive so they can cross off different things throughout the day. For those of you who aren't aware of Parkinson's law basically dictates that work will expand to fill the time allocated to it. So in this example, if person A allocates an hour and a half to do a certain task, and person B allocates an hour to do that same task, both are going to get that task done, but person B is going to get that done half an hour quicker. By extending this into my personal life, I get a much better idea of how much time I actually have to do certain things. If we look at my morning, if I didn't schedule time to go to the gym, I wouldn't know that I have an hour between getting back from the gym and getting ready for work and actually leaving for work. Now, this allows me to work on my YouTube channel for an hour every morning. Without this, I'd probably just mince around, take a little bit longer to get ready. But now, because I'm disciplined and I stick to this, I have an hour to work on what's important to me. This method does require that you live and die by your calendar, so that self-accountability is very important. Unfortunately, that's not something that I can teach you. That's something you just have to repeat again and again until it becomes a habit. When it comes down to actually knowing what to time block for, this is where my second system comes in, and this is thanks to Abdaal. My second system is my weekly review, and without fail, every single week I will sit down and physically write out the answers to the questions you see in front of you. The aim of doing this is twofold. Number one, to see where I actually stuck to what I said I'd do last week, and number two, to see how my goals are progressing and how I can allocate my time for the following week. By asking how my quarterly and annual goals are going, I can see how the actions that I'm taking every single day move me towards those goals that are really important to me. My wins for the week is quite an important one for me because I'm very self-critical. I like to focus on where I can improve and don't necessarily take time to celebrate my wins. And so by physically writing these down, it allows me to ground myself and just appreciate how well I'm doing in other parts of my life. But as we move down the list, you can see it's also an opportunity to write down how you're deviating from those behaviors that you want to be exhibiting, how you are acting out of line with your intentions, and what you might want to change for the following week. Now, you will have to deviate from time to time. Of course you will. Life admin will pop up. You'll have work commitments. You'll want to see friends. That's absolutely fine. That's what this system is for. It's a way for you to visualize how you're moving towards your goals while you're allocating time for this. And you're not picking between one or the other. It's around that balance. Now, his video is going to be linked in the comments. I implore you to check it out because it's been so incredibly useful for me. The final system I use isn't related to time blocking or goal setting. It's actually related to my phone, because personally, I feel like my phone has held me back from achieving so many goals within my past. I don't receive any notifications on my phone. I don't have Instagram on there, nor do I have Facebook, nor do I have TikTok. The only app that I have for messaging is WhatsApp, and even that doesn't send me notifications. Now, the reason for this is because I was constantly getting interrupted, and these interruptions themselves weren't really the problem. It's the context behind them. So if you're doing 15-20 minutes of deep and meaningful work towards one of these goals and you get one of these notifications, the 1 or 2 minutes that you spend, maybe replying, looking at that video, whatever it might be, don't make too much of an impact, but it's the readjustment of maybe an extra 5-10 minutes that really take away from the time that you have for that overall task. So that 15 minutes that you had at the start could have been 30 minutes of deep, meaningful work. And yet it's remained at that 15 because then you have to get back to baseline again. I actually want to take this one step further, and this past week I have been putting my phone in a separate room when I'm at home in the morning and the evening, and then also turning it off and putting it in my bag at work. And what I've noticed from this is that I get so much more done. It's not having that urge to scroll or just check for messages or send messages. I've got Spotify on my laptop, so I'm able to just plug in and get into the zone, but having the phone not physically there or physically turned off really does help. I think one thing to bear in mind is your goals will change over time as you do, and that's fine, that's completely okay. That's why personally I like to leave my 3 to 5 year goals as quite vague, like that's the general direction I want to go in, but then as that time frame shortens, my goals get a lot more precise. So my quarterly quests for this queue are to run a 10k at my marathon pace and plan a couple of trips I'm taking to Slovenia and Vietnam. But then if we look at my 3 to 5 year goals, that is, pull in 6 figures to take trips to Japan and Patagonia, quite vague. Systems definitely become a lot more noticeable with those short-term goals because the goals in of itself will be smaller, and so the progress you make towards them will be a lot more noticeable. But when we talk around those 3 to 5 year goals, this is where the consistency really comes into play. 3-5 years down the line, you won't be able to look back on a daily basis and see those actions that you took and attribute them to that goal. But you can attribute those behaviors that you held over those 3 to 5 years. And that is done by the actions that you repeat day to day. Now, personally, I think the content market when it comes to goal setting is very, very saturated, and I probably won't go into that in this video. But what I will do is highlight Ali Abdaal, whose videos on productivity, goal setting, discipline have been so instrumental in so many different areas of life. I promise you, if you check out his channel, you won't regret it. If nothing else, I hope this video has encouraged you to take a look at the systems that you currently employ, or maybe to evaluate some completely new systems that can help you push yourself towards those goals. If I leave you with one thing today, I would like it to be this. Everyone who's running the 100 meters in the Olympics wants to win the race. But those with the best chance of winning are those that have the systems in place to support that goal. Remember, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems.